Change has always been a big trigger for my inner anxiety. I've always felt conflicted by the two sides of my personality. There's the side that craves adventure, enjoys the thrill of moving from place to place with every day being different, and the one who adores routine, likes having a fixed base and finds happiness in the mundane, everyday moments. But whether I'm about to embark on another crazy travelling adventure or getting ready to move back to the suburban life of normality and working on the grind again, as I recently just have, these sudden changes always make me feel very uneasy, and I find them very mentally challenging. Over time, I have begun to recognize and accept that this happens every time I face change in my life, and B, learn some ways that I can adapt and cope. A bit of background about me: my name is Surina and I have been a qualified medical doctor for about 4 years now. I initially worked for a couple of years in the UK, then moved to the other side of the world to work in Australia, and now I am back in the UK and have just started my surgical training. Quite recently I made the move to Bristol to pursue my surgical training, so that involved packing up everything I owned in Australia and in my family home near London and moving and relocating here, and it's taken me a little bit of time to settle in, and I'll talk about a few little things that I've done to make the whole process a bit more seamless and a bit more calming. There is a lot of crossover between the reasons that I love the way that surgery works and also the way that I would like my life to work, and that is the incessant obsession with everything being as functional as possible. In surgery, there is a tool that will help almost every type of maneuver, be that cutting or creating pressure or traction or negotiating a really difficult access point. Whatever it is, there will be a tool or a technique for the job, and I am so here for that. Similarly in life, I find a disproportionate and quite frankly sad amount of joy in allocating a specific function or purpose to most objects in my life. Like seriously, the amount of time I spend browsing and ordering things that help me to improve the way I store or display or use the things I have in my life is a little bit unhealthy. This makes my environment feel a bit more stable, and so I feel like I have a bit more control, and it just reduces the mental load of daily living where we all have so much to do. I don't want to be wasting my mental space or emotions trying to find things that I can't find and clean little build-ups of mess that keep happening frequently. With purposeful organisation, things stay in their place, you know where everything is and what you need to do to access them, and things stay cleaner for a longer amount of time as well, so I can preserve my energy and use that for more important thoughts like, what am I going to learn today? What do I need to do today? And why did the murderer in this true crime podcast do it? Why? Light might seem like something we just need to be able to see, but actually it's very important because it affects a lot of our daily activities, such as improving our mood, our sleep, and our focus. If you listen to the Huberman Lab podcasts, then you will know that Dr. Huberman is repeatedly promoting the importance of early morning light exposure or light exposure soon after you wake up, because it helps focus you for that day, alert you to the fact that the day has begun, but also starts to regulate your inner circadian rhythms to start preparing for sleep later that day as well. On a less scientific but equally credible note, I believe that I used to be a leaf in a previous life, and so I must absorb all and any sunlight as free. on. I think I'm heading for my next life soon as well. So when we were moving in, I made sure my desk was next to a big window. There's another one behind the camera as well, to make sure I was having that light coming in a location I spend a lot of time. I open all the curtains as soon as I wake up and then follow the patches of sunlight around the flat, make sure that I get in my time of absorbing every day. In the evenings, Huberman also suggests following the natural pattern of sunlight outside. As it reduces, we also reduce the light in our environment, so using dimming lights, sticking to lamps instead of big overhead lights, and reducing the brightness of our screens as well. Now, I won't lie to you, I really wanted to do another flat hunting video because you guys seem to love the one in Brisbane, so I wanted to do the same in Bristol, but flat hunting in the UK in a cost of living crisis is just not as cute. We were obviously not able to look at flats anywhere near the level of the ones in Brisbane with their insane views and all their building facilities, rooftop pools and whatever. We were just grateful to have a functioning flat in a decent location that we could afford. So yeah, it really wasn't as fun as it was in Brisbane. And a affordable flat for us meant one that was pretty dated and not really my taste at all. It also came mostly fully furnished, so there wasn't much I could do in terms of making it my own, apart from absolutely spending the first few weeks running around finding lamps, candles, fairy lights, and just making the lighting of the flat as to my taste as possible. And maybe it sounds silly, but honestly, when you're moving country, changing jobs, and everything is popping off, that evening glow and coziness that you can create in your environment gives me so much peace and tranquility that just helps. Finally, a very important thing for my environment and how I live life is to reduce friction. Now, I might be the only person left on the planet who has not read Atomic Habits yet. It says 1 million copies sold. I wonder if there was a breakdown of how many of those copies are sitting unread on a bookshelf somewhere. Hopefully I'm not the only one, but I will read this soon. But the power of this book is so nuclear that learnings from it have seemed to trickle down to me despite me never having opened this myself. And one of those key themes is about reducing friction. This is the concept that we cannot rely on motivation to do hard things because we are inherently lazy creatures. And we, like most things in nature, will take the path of least resistance and just do what's easy. There is no problem with that. In fact, James Clear specifically talks about how we can hijack that innate laziness and use it for good by making our environment conducive to do the things we actually want to do. Because in his words, environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. In other words, the easier something is to do, so the less friction there is or the less obstacles there are in your way, the more likely you are to do it. The harder something is to do, because there's more friction or more obstacles, the less likely you're to do it. Being happy in my environment means doing things that I know are good for my brain and my body. I keep my Kindle right next to my bed so that I can try and read every day. I charge my phone away from my bed, so that's increasing the friction between me and using my phone, and I'm less likely to use that and more likely to read. Both my partner and I have just started surgical training, and so that means brushing up on lots of practical skills. So we've kept all of our knot tying, threads and suture equipment right under the coffee table where we sit and watch TV, so if we're ever sitting down and watching something, we can also do some mindless knot tying while we watch. Very sad, I know, but already I've been in situations where I've practiced something the night before and then had to do it in theatre the next day, so that has actually been extremely useful hack. Practicing at home is not something I would naturally ever think to do, but because the equipment is there, somewhere where I spend a lot of time, I'm just able to implement it into my day. Currently, the two biggest priorities in my life alongside my job are to be revising for a surgical exam I'm sitting very soon and have paid a lot of money for, and to be keeping up with filming and editing for this channel. And so when I was moving in, creating a work environment that was easy but also enjoyable to access was extremely important to me. As someone who sits exams regularly and spends hours and hours editing videos, my work setup has always been really important to me. I remember at uni I used to rate all the libraries based on their lighting, number of windows, accessibility to water and toilets, closeness to local amenities, and of course I had my favourite, not only favourite libraries, but favourite seats in my favourite libraries. So yeah, it's always been very important. I'm slowly working towards my dream work setup. So when FlexiSpot reached out and asked if I'd want to try one of their desks, I literally almost fell off my chair with excitement because it is the desk of my dreams. They kindly gifted me this Q8 standing desk, which I absolutely fell in love with, firstly because of its size and aesthetic. The desk is 140 centimeters wide and it looks so clean and classic, which gives me the space to think and learn and to be creative on. Secondly, the functionality, and you know how I feel about functionality by now, hopefully. There are so many features that just make sense, from the inbuilt charging ports, the wireless charging on the table, and the sleek drawer, which just fits in everything I need to work with without causing a lot of clutter also on the desk. All of these features mean when I come back from work absolutely shattered, it is just so easy but also so enjoyable to just sit down in this workspace and want to start to work, but also be able to start working pretty easily. My laptop is always plugged into my big main screen, so when I turn the monitor on, whatever I was last working on is instantly on there, and I can pick off where I left off in a matter of seconds. Everything is accessible and there's not a lot of friction to get going, which means I'm way more likely to be doing these things consistently. I would love to do a full desk tour setup soon, so if that's something you want to nerd out on with me, then let me know and I will make that video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.